Good morning, Cabinet Secretary Minister. There's a sum of £145.5 million in the budget to support local authorities to recruit and deploy additional staff. Last year, they received the same sum with a view to recruiting an additional 2,500 teachers, which of course, amongst other things, supported post-probationers into employment and 500 classroom assistants. I'm not sure about the progress that's been made in the latter context. Perhaps you can share that with us. But the overall number of full-time equivalent teachers employed fell due to a drop in, specifically in a significant drop in primary schools. Now, given that you presumably had a deal with local authorities around this, how can that be? And how will you seek to ensure that councils actually fulfil their end of the agreement? Now, I recognise it ought to be the councils that we were putting on the spot on this issues, but you're here today, Cabinet Secretary, so I wonder if you can outline for me, first of all, your view on the lack of progress on boosting teacher numbers, and what's going to be done to ensure that we get the additionality that's being sought and that the funding is being provided for.
So an agreement was reached with local authorities where we had an understanding within Scottish Government, and I thought we had an understanding with local government that money was to assist with teacher numbers, but also to see that move from temporary to permanent. So I was therefore exceptionally disappointed when we saw no real improvement in the temporary to permanent, and indeed a small decrease in the number of teachers. Now, what I can do, what government can do on that is in some ways quite limited, because local authorities are the employers. I cannot instruct a local authority to employ a certain amount of teachers on a type of contract. But what I certainly would expect, and what we are now moving into very detailed discussions with local authorities for the forthcoming year, is actually how the money that is given, with an understanding that it would be paid for this, is actually used to fulfil those requirements. So there are meetings that will happen between myself and CLOSA spokespeople to discuss this specific issue.
But, Cabinet Secretary, do you accept that what Colleges of Scotland actually have submitted to us is that they're predicting 1,500 job losses over the next 5 years because of the budget that you're praising? And I don't think they're praising it. I think they're saying that it means cuts. I mean, how can you be satisfied with that?
Well, I think I would point to the section of my introductory remarks at the end. If you're suggesting, Mr Kerr, that we've not increased it by enough, please do feel free to suggest how much it should be increased by and where that money should come from. So within difficult financial circumstances, we have seen a real recognition of that within government and our ability to increase the college's budget. If you don't feel that's sufficient, Mr Kerr, I would be more than happy to know how much you think it should increase by and where that money should come from.
Mr Kerr, let the Cabinet Secretary respond, please.
It's a very clever response, but it's not based in any reality, because you're the Cabinet Secretary. And
Graham Day, brief supplementary, then we're moving
brief
to
as I can, Convener. At the start today, Cabinet Secretary, you set the committee members a challenge, which was that if we were to suggest to you should spend more money on any aspect of education, we needed to tell you from where it came. Now, my colleague, Mr Kerr, was unable or unwilling to rise to that challenge when he talked about colleges of policies. Convener, can I ask whether at any stage during the budget process, any MSPs or parties have been asking for more money in education, made such suggestions to you, and if they have, how you assess those?
There have not been suggestions about how money could be moved within portfolio or indeed across portfolio, but as committee is well aware, we are still going through the budget process, and I'd be more than willing to discuss some of those or receive those by correspondence.